Beginning of the season, end of the season, last game of the season. Now I'm just proud of him and glad to have a win. He's been waiting for, do it against a team that, unfortunately he came up a little bit short with at the beginning of the year. And I know he's been waiting at the second crack at this, and God willing, he went out there and put it right down the middle.
Myles Garrett didn't mince words, and what he said after this game has the entire NFL paying attention. After making history with another sack record and helping secure a massive win over the Cincinnati Bengals, Garrett made one thing crystal clear. When the game was on the line in the second half, it was Shedeur Sanders who helped pull the Cleveland Browns back into the fight and guide them to victory. And according to Garrett, there's absolutely no question about Sanders' ability as a quarterback. That's a big deal. When one of the most dominant defensive forces in the league goes out of his way to publicly back his quarterback after a win, you know something meaningful happened on that field. Now let's break down what really unfolded in this game, because the full story goes far beyond what the box score shows. At first glance, Shedeur Sanders' stat line might not jump off the page. His numbers weren't flashy, and there were moments when the offense looked unsettled. To a casual viewer, it might seem like an uneven performance. But that's not how Myles Garrett saw it, and anyone who truly watched the game would understand why. Sanders wasn't the source of the problems. Far from it. He was playing through conditions that would have rattled many quarterbacks. Time and again, passes hit running backs in the hands only to be dropped. These weren't bad throws. They were well-placed, catchable balls that simply weren't finished, or plays where the receivers weren't in the correct position. Sanders was making the right reads and delivering the ball where it needed to be, but the execution around him just wasn't there for long stretches. That's frustrating for fans to watch, and it's even more frustrating for a quarterback who knows he's doing his job but isn't being rewarded for it. While the offense worked through those struggles, the defense completely took over the game, and at the center of that dominance was Myles Garrett. Garrett didn't just play well. He made history. With his 23rd sack of the season, he set the all-time record for most sacks in a single season. Let that sink in. 23 sacks. That's not just impressive, that's legendary. Those are Hall of Fame level numbers. That's the kind of dominance that keeps offensive coordinators up at night. And it doesn't stop there. Earlier this season, Garrett also set the record for most sacks in a single game with 5. 5 sacks in one outing is the definition of taking over a football game. When Garrett steps on the field, he doesn't just play defense, he dictates how the opposing offense has to operate. Yet despite his own historic performance, despite rewriting the record books and delivering a defensive masterclass, Garrett chose to shine the spotlight on someone else after the game. He chose to talk about Shedeur Sanders. Garrett didn't hesitate when he said that Shedeur made the plays that led them to victory. This wasn't coach speak or a generic compliment. It was a strong, deliberate acknowledgement from one elite player to another, recognition that Sanders stepped up when it mattered most.
He's been waiting for, do it against a team that, unfortunately he came up a little bit short with at the beginning of the year. And I know he's been waiting at the second crack at this, and God willing, he went out there and put it right down the middle.
And Myles Garrett is absolutely right. Shedeur Sanders delivered a strong performance, especially in the second half, when the pressure was at its highest. That's when Sanders truly showed what kind of quarterback he can be with the game on the line. After halftime, everything began to click for both Sanders and the offense. His throws weren't just accurate, they were precisely placed. He processed the defense faster, released the ball more quickly, and most importantly, he put the Browns ahead when it mattered most. Sanders made several throws in that second half that had fans on their feet. We're talking about tight window completions, perfectly timed deep passes, and critical third down conversions that extended drives and led to points. He stayed calm in the pocket despite pressure coming from all angles, showing composure and confidence. He also demonstrated strong decision-making, knowing when to attack downfield and when to take the safe option to move the chains. Those are the traits that separate average quarterbacks from great ones, and Sanders displayed them when his team needed it most. Now, let's address the obvious talking point. Yes, Shedeur Sanders was sacked 6 times. 6. That number jumps out immediately, and it's easy to assume the quarterback was holding the ball too long or failing to sense pressure. But that tells only part of the story. Those sacks were not solely on Sanders. A closer look at the film shows that many of them resulted from breakdowns along the offensive line. The Bengals' pass rush consistently won up front, getting quick penetration and executing stunts and blitzes that the Browns' line struggled to handle. When defenders are in the backfield barely a second after the snap, there's only so much a quarterback can do. Despite that, Sanders handled the pressure admirably. He stepped up in the pocket when possible, slid laterally to buy time, and used his legs when necessary. But when protection collapses that frequently, sacks are inevitable, and that's exactly what happened. That's why Myles Garrett's comments carry so much weight. Garrett understands the game at an elite level. He knows what winning football looks like, and he looked beyond the surface statistics to see the real impact Sanders had on this game. He recognized that it was Shedeur Sanders who stabilized the offense and made the plays that ultimately helped the Browns secure the win in the season finale.
Beginning of the season, end of the season, last game of the season. Now I'm just proud of him and glad to have a win.
Take a moment to consider the context of this game. This was the Cleveland Browns' final matchup of the season, a chance to finish strong, build momentum heading into the offseason, and give the fan base something to feel optimistic about. And it came against a division rival, the Cincinnati Bengals. These are the games that carry extra weight, the ones players and coaches remember, the ones that often shape how an entire season is viewed. And in that moment, with everything at stake, Shedeur Sanders rose to the occasion. The Browns dug themselves into an early hole. The offense struggled to find any consistency, drives stalled, and the Bengals began to seize control of the game. Nothing was coming easy, but then halftime arrived, and what followed was a completely different version of Shedeur Sanders. He came out of the locker room with visible fire and determination. He took command at the line of scrimmage, making pre-snap adjustments, directing his receivers, and executing the game plan with precision. Sanders led multiple scoring drives in the second half that completely changed the direction of the game. He delivered on critical third downs, consistently found soft spots in the Bengals' zone coverage, and made clutch throws when his team needed them most. This wasn't just about numbers or highlight reel moments, though there were plenty of those. It was about leadership, composure, and refusing to let a rough first half dictate the outcome of the game. When Myles Garrett says that Shedeur made the plays that led to victory, he's talking about very specific moments, the third and long conversions that kept drives alive, the red zone execution that resulted in touchdowns instead of field goals, and the type of quarterback play that complements a dominant defense and gives a team its best chance to win. And zooming out to the bigger picture, Garrett's public praise of Sanders speaks volumes about the culture inside the Browns locker room. Garrett could have easily focused on his own historic accomplishment, setting the single-season sack record and cementing his place in NFL history. Instead, he chose to lift up his teammate and make sure Sanders received the recognition he deserved. That's leadership. That's the foundation great teams are built on. Despite the adversity, despite the imperfect stat line, and despite being sacked 6 times, Shedeur Sanders proved he has what it takes to lead this team. He showed resilience. He showed talent. And most importantly, he showed the ability to perform when the pressure is at its highest. Those are the traits franchises build around. And based on Myles Garrett's words after the game, it's clear Sanders has the trust and belief of his teammates. As we close the book on this game, and on an incredible season for Myles Garrett, it's important to remember the full story. Yes, Garrett made history with his 23rd sack. Yes, he was a dominant force on defense all season long. But Shedeur Sanders' second-half performance, his ability to overcome adversity, and the respect he's earning inside the locker room matter just as much. This win over the Bengals may be the start of something special in Cleveland. And it's clear that both Myles Garrett and Shedeur Sanders will be at the center of whatever comes next.